Shalom from the Philippines. This is Amir Tsarfati and I'm here in the island of Boracay. It's a small island, one of the nicest places in the Philippines. I'm here to speak in a church, and I'm also taking a few days of break in between several major speaking engagements. I spoke this past Sunday in Manila, and I'm going to be speaking after this coming Sunday in the largest church in Manila with nearly 30 to 40,000 people. In between, I have a lot of meetings with government officials, with some high-profile people, and I'm not, it's not about anything but to teach about current events, Bible prophecy, end times, and to seek people's salvation and people's getting right with the Lord. This is what it's all about. I'm not a government official. All of my meetings will be surrounding the Bible itself, which is the most amazing thing to see. Now, I'm here, and behind me is the Pacific Ocean. And as you probably heard, a couple days ago, there was the most powerful earthquake as of this year, 7.3 magnitude, deep, very deep in the ocean. Thank God nothing happened, no damage and no tsunami. But I've been watching lately earthquakes, and you know that I've been speaking about earthquakes quite a lot when I describe the end times. See, I'm not a person that is looking for blood moons, but I am sticking to what Jesus said about the signs of the end. And when Jesus described to the disciples, one of the things he said is earthquakes. And I've been watching over the last few days an unprecedented number of earthquakes. They even announced a 7 days watch because they're expecting something very, very big here on the western part of the Pacific, and that would send pressure towards the western coast of the United States. They're talking about something close to 7 in the magnitude off the shores of Northern California. They're not sure if it's going to be offshore or on land, but one thing is for sure, it will continue to send pressure inlands in a lower magnitude, in a 5s and 4s. But we are watching not only some seismic activity, some this type of thing, but we're also watching volcanic activity as a result of these earthquakes. And so this is going to be a very interesting year. They're expecting something very big to happen on the western part of the Pacific, something almost to the equivalent to what happened in Japan, 9.3. Unfortunately, in the same area of so many afflicted people by earthquakes, and I'm talking about Indonesia and that area. But I just want to mention that as part of a global pressure that is mounting, global pressure that is mounting in almost every possible side and arena. Apart from what we see in the earthquakes and the movements of plates, we see political, we see financial, and we see spiritual pressure that is mounting. And we have to pay attention to all of these things. The deadline of January 20th, when Donald Trump is going to become the acting president of the United States, is a deadline that put a lot of people under a lot of pressure. It put, of course, the politically correct media under a lot of pressure. It put the Middle East under a lot of pressure. And it put the whole aspect of Jerusalem under a lot of pressure. It seems like the world is in a rush to set some things on stone and write them on stone before Trump is in the White House. It seems like this current administration is absolutely working relentlessly to somehow tie the hands of the coming president. And this is very troubling because we're talking about the Paris conference that is about to convene in a couple of days, and we're talking about a United Nations Security Council special session that is about to be held regarding the Middle East on January 17th, 2 days later. And then, of course, January 20th, Donald Trump is inaugurated. So we're talking about the forces of evil are working so much extra hours right now to somehow work against the will of the people and against the will, and also, I believe, the will of God. But it's very interesting because I've been always watching the decisions of the leaders of the world, and I'm kind of laughing because they really think they're smart. They really think that they're doing something good. They really think that they make some great decisions. What they don't understand is that their evil doing plays an amazing role in the end times scenario. They don't understand that just as God knew beforehand what Pharaoh's reaction is going to be to Moses, just when he called Moses to just go to Pharaoh, God already told Moses, Pharaoh is going to have this type of reaction. He will not allow you. In other words, God knows the reaction of the world leaders before they even do something or say something. God knows. And so the ways of man are not the ways of God. And the difference is because we don't know everything. He knows everything. And therefore, based on what he knows, we can have an amazing third of our Bible, which is Bible prophecy, that is so reliable because it is God's word channeled through his prophets to all of us, his children. And so we know, by the way, when the phone is moving, it's not an earthquake. It's just a wooden floor right here that is not that stable. But I want you to understand that the leaders of the world, truly, when Obama was asked a couple days ago, are you doing that just to make the Prime Minister of Israel angry? Are you revenging Israel or Netanyahu? He said, no, I think I'm doing what's the best for the world and what's the best for Israel and what's the best for the region. They truly are in that mindset that what they're doing is the best. And they don't understand that God is laughing at all of them. God is laughing at all of them because we know, I could have told you that before the Paris conference, before the UN resolution at the Security Council, I could have told you that the world will convene together to divide Israel and to divide Jerusalem. It's a given. We know that because the Bible says that God is going to judge them for doing that. So obviously, if he's going to judge them, according to Joel chapter 3, they will have to do it. And they don't have a clue that that which they are doing is something that God is going to judge them for. So it's for those who believe and those who are not panicky when they see world news, it's actually a very encouraging thing to see how things are moving ahead so fast in the direction that God had foretold through his prophets, and how we can be encouraged that just at the same way he allows those leaders to do what they want to do, God is going to take care of us the way he promised. And so I'm super encouraged. But at the same time, our job and our mandate is to not only open the eyes of the people to understand what's going on, but also to check our own hearts and to see, are we ready for that which God is about to do? So let's talk about a few things. When I say pressure is mounting, as I said, it's mounting when it comes to earthquakes, tectonic movements, it's mounting when it comes to volcanic movement, it's mounting when it comes to maneuvers of military navies and ground troops in different parts of the world. We're talking about Taiwan and China. We're talking about areas in Syria, in Turkey, in Lebanon. We're talking about in Sinai. There's so many things that are happening around the world right now, and each and every one of them is playing an amazing and significant role in Bible prophecy fulfillment. So let's start. We talked about the pressure under the ground, and we talked about the fact that this is one of the signs that Jesus said to his disciples that is going to characterize the end times. Again, we're expecting something very, very big to happen here on the western part of the Pacific that will reflect to the eastern part of that region towards the western shores of the United States. We're going to take a look at that and monitor that situation as we move on. But I do want you to understand a few more things. First of all, we see a panic that is grabbing a hold of the politically correct media. There is a gruesome attempt to delegitimize both Trump in America, that will legitimately elected, and even Netanyahu here in Israel. Both are done by the press. The press that I think it's embarrassing itself right now, because it's being proved that they're using bogus and fake information. With Trump is, of course, this whole thing about Miss Universe and his affairs in his hotel room in Moscow. I don't think he's that stupid to do things like that, and I think that the media is aware of that right now, and CNN lost so much credibility, and I think that in the recent press conference he called them out. He basically proved them wrong. They understand that. Even on CNN itself, I saw some of the analysts that are admitting that the way those news were treated was poorly, unfairly, because it wasn't checked thoroughly before it was broadcasted. Now, apart from that, we have with Netanyahu. Now the media is trying to blame Netanyahu for somehow plotting a deal or cutting a deal with the #1 newspaper to eliminate the effect of one newspaper that is for him, in order to give the big newspaper in Israel, the biggest one, the power and back the money in order, and then for them to report positively about Netanyahu. All of that is bogus and wrong. What Netanyahu actually did, he recorded. There was a recording device in his pocket, a meeting between him and the chief editor and president of the Israeli largest newspaper, a conversation in which it's the newspaper that is actually threatening Netanyahu. Either you pass a law to ban the newspaper that is for you, or we're going to go against you. And Netanyahu, of course, was afraid that the media and the police will have some sort of a cahoot, and therefore he didn't do anything with those recordings. Those recordings were found accidentally through a different police investigation in Netanyahu's chief of staff's house, and now everything surfaces, and the media is embarrassed. The media is embarrassed because those left-wing, liberal, politically correct media sources that always preach for clean hands and clean politics were actually those who are using the ugliest maneuvers to get the support. So both in the U.S. and in Israel, we see a very last-minute attempt to somehow cause January 20th without Trump in the White House and Netanyahu in the Prime Minister's office. Quite amazing, isn't it? Then we move to what's going on in Syria. And you need to understand what's going on in Syria. It's amazing. I cannot really confirm that Israel just attacked a few hours ago an airbase and a weapon cache west of Damascus. I can only tell you this: someone attacked. It will be very, very irresponsible from my side to already expose that it's us, but you already can guess that whoever during the night attacks weapon caches and things that might come to the wrong hands, it's probably Israel. The reports were that missiles were fired from the area of the Sea of Galilee, which means that we, for the second time in a row, we did not use aircrafts, but we used surface-to-surface missiles. And that is due to the Russian presence in Syria with the Russian anti-aircraft systems that are not really working in our favor. So we're talking about Syria that has just been hit, Damascus that has just been hit by Israel a few hours ago, and the Syrian regime is so angry. They issued a warning against Israel, and of course they believe that we are collaborating with the rebels, which we don't. For us, we really don't care who is there. In fact, probably Assad is even better than ISIS for us. But we will not tolerate weapon movement from Iran via Damascus all the way to Hezbollah. And every time we detect something like that, we will immediately destroy it. So Damascus is being attacked, is being hit almost every month by Israel. And I'm wondering, when is it that the patience with the Syrian will cause the Iranians and the Turks and the Russians to immediately fight back? Maybe and possibly, and I believe this is what the best scenario is going to be. It's probably something so big that will bring Damascus down, that will cause those three countries to come against us from that area. Now, in Syria, we have to understand the people of Damascus are suffering for almost 2 weeks now, lack of water, running water. With maybe the rebels lost in Aleppo, but you must understand that there's a lot of rebels in other suburbs of Damascus, and right where there's the main spring that supplies drinking water to Damascus, this is where we have the rebels a target, that particular pump and that particular spring, and there's no running water towards Damascus. People are without water, sometimes without electricity, and ISIS just about 6 days ago destroyed the biggest natural gas and propane facility in the northern part near Irbid. And we're actually talking about soon Damascus will not only not have electricity and water, but not even gas. And in the winter, to warm to heat your homes, and it's going to be a problem. And so you can see that the pressure is mounting not only from the outside on Damascus, but also from the inside, from the people themselves that are not happy with the situation. And bear in mind, Israel has nothing to do with all of that. These are the wars between the rebels and the regime, and the people are suffering. It's quite interesting to see also how in the last 2 weeks, Russia and Turkey reached a deal. The Russians are recalculating their whole presence in Syria. They're already sending back their aircraft carrier, Admiral Kuznetsov, back to their territory, because they have completed the mission of taking over Aleppo. The Russians also need to cut down their expenses, because we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollar expenses that they don't get it back from anyone. And there is that much Putin is willing to do in order to be involved in the Middle East. Anything that has to do with money and power will attract him. Anything that has to do with expenses will send him back. And therefore, the gas of Israel might bring him, obviously, into Israel later on. But right now, all he gets is expenses after expenses, and that's not good. And therefore, he was trying to put a lid on the excitement and the wild move of Iran to create what we call the Shiite crescent, all the way from Iran via Iraq towards Syria to the Mediterranean. They're trying to create that for the first time, and because it wasn't the case before, Putin says enough is enough. I'm not willing to take part of your dreams and your fantasies. I'm here to do my job, and he cut a deal with Turkey. He needs Turkey much more right now for the sake of his gas pipe, and therefore the Turks, who are in a great need of some relief in Syria because of their internal problems, gladly jumped on the wagon. And of course, Putin himself is excited to be less involved in the day-to-day fighting. He paid a big price for being there with hundreds of soldiers that died. But you need to understand, Iran is feeling pressured right now, and Turkey is also feeling very pressured, because there's a civil war that nobody wants to talk about in Turkey right now. It's not just the Kurds and the Turks, we're talking about also people that are against the moves of the Turkish government to align with Russia because of what they did to Aleppo. And that explains the assassination of the Russian ambassador at that time. There's a great dissatisfaction with what's going on now. The terrorism, both the Kurdish and the jihadists, brought down the economy there. The credit bubble that bursted left the Turkish lira losing almost 30% of its value. We're talking about a great distress in the Turkish economy, that which was so promising becoming right now a very, very big and aching economy right now. And therefore, we see Turkey is under a lot of pressure. Iran is under a lot of pressure. Syria is under a lot of pressure. And with all the pressure that is mounting, you have to understand something. Normally, only a war it's like an earthquake, releases pressure. Now we come to the important Paris conference that will be held to the best of my knowledge, in 2 days. We're talking about 72 countries. Everybody says 70, but actually 72 countries confirmed their participation there. The Palestinians even have their own delegation there, but I'm not sure they will participate. But you have to understand, this is a whole big show. Let me explain why. It's a big show because the resolution draft has already been decided. Everybody will come and talk, but that which will be read to the public at the end is already ready. It has been printed now. America is trying to make some modifications, but the language of that particular resolution is so harsh against Israel. It's as if Israel is the problem. See, the whole world is burning. Millions are being killed. Muslims are killing Muslims. Civil rights are being trampled on. And Israel is the problem of the world. The world will convene 72 countries to deal with Israel and Jerusalem, and not with Syria and the problem there and the tragedy there, and not what's going on in Mosul and in Aleppo. All these tragedies were far forgotten by the world. They didn't want to deal with that. Even not that is going on in Europe right now. They're trying to hide it. But New Year's Eve, once again, fiasco all across Germany, where multiple cases of rape and sexual assault. We're talking about, they started selling anti-rape pants that women would actually wear. Can you imagine, in free Europe, in the 21st century, that's what people have to wear in order to avoid a rape, possible rape. What's going on in Europe is so amazing. But yet they all find the time. You see, even France, that is being hit every month also, or every few months by Islamic terrorism, they all find the time to deal with the Middle East, biggest issue, biggest problem, their obsession, and that's of course Israel and Jerusalem. And you have to understand, there has been already Security Council resolutions that were taken, and that were the base for the Israeli-Egyptian peace process and the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. These are resolution 242 that was decided in November of 1967, right after the 6 Days War, and resolution 338 that was decided after the Yom Kippur War in October of 1973. So, and both of them did not even talk about the Palestinians as a state. They talked about Israel that has to pull out of some, or land that was taken, not the land, not all the lands, or territories, not the territories. And it also speaks about the fact that Israel has to have a secure borders. It doesn't even talk about Jerusalem in those resolutions. So that resolution, the 2334 that was just taken in the Security Council, orchestrated by the Obama administration, is by far worse than any Security Council resolution in the past, and paved the way for the Paris conference to take some sort of a resolution that will be as, if not even worse, than that Security Council resolution. Now, America suddenly says, oh, we will veto anything against Israel. But I don't believe this administration, to be honest with you. They also said to us through their own ambassador that they will veto the last one, and they did not. And since they did not do that, I'm not even sure what they're going to do now. Maybe that will be the last accord of Obama before he leaves office. I'm not sure. All I know is this. More than ever before in the history of Israel, Jerusalem is on the table right now. Because now, that which was kept out of Resolution 242 and 338 is on the table by Resolution 2334. And now the world demands that anything that was added or changed since June 4th, 1967, has to be reported to the United Nations on every 3 months. You understand, every house in Jerusalem, I'm not even talking about the West Bank or Golan Heights, I'm talking about Jerusalem, the capital of Israel. Every house has to be reported to the UN. This is ridiculous. We're coming to the boiling point right now. We're coming to the boiling point where Jerusalem indeed is becoming a cup of poison. And you know, there's no other city but Jerusalem where God says, I'm going to put my name upon this city. So I'm trying to tell you that their dealing with Jerusalem right now is going to cause them great headache and great damage. So let's summarize everything we talked about so far. We're talking about pressure mounting all around the world. We're talking about seismic pressure. We're talking about tectonic pressure that is resulting with major earthquakes and eruption of volcanoes like no other time before. And there's some people that are earthquake watchers that they don't sleep in the last few nights. They don't, because it's everywhere and it's all the time. It's amazing. We're talking about pressure when it comes to the Sunni Shiite crisis that is there. We're talking about ISIS not even being eliminated but becoming stronger. We're talking about Syria under a lot of pressure. Damascus has been hit by Israel just a few hours ago, and Damascus is without water, without electricity, and soon without gas. We're talking about Turkey's economy plunging, and Turkey is boiling with what we call civil war, that the West doesn't want to call civil war because the West is really trying to appease Erdogan. We're talking about Iran angry that the Russians are not allowing them to expand all the way as they wish to create the Shiite crescent all the way from Iran to the Mediterranean. And we're talking about ongoing attempts, even in the United States, to block the Donald Trump from becoming the acting president of the United States. That pressure is building up. That pressure is mounting. And the resolution that they might get in Paris will be brought on January 17th to the Security Council, and God knows what is going to happen there. Ladies and gentlemen, 2017 is a year where major decisions will be made. Major events are going to take place around the world, even when it comes to nature disasters. And I want all of us to understand that this is the time for the bride to get ready and to call him to come. This is the time. As I said, I believe the Lord really put it on my heart that the Spirit and the bride say come. We need to tell him to come. Not that he won't come unless we call him. God takes pleasure in us asking him to come. God takes pleasure in us asking him to do things. God takes pleasure in his children wanting him to lead the way. Just like Moses said in Exodus 33, I'm not moving if you're not leading me. And so we're not moving unless Christ is coming. And therefore, we need to get ready as a bride of Christ. We need to take a look at our own lives, our own hearts right now. And I believe that these are amazing moments, amazing times in which we live. 2017 will reshape the whole world, I believe. And my position is the bride must get ready. You know, we see all that is going around the world, but as I said many times, there's always two tracks in which God is working. There's the global track, events that have been already decided and or already foretold that will happen, things that you cannot stop, things like Gog and Magog, things like the rise of the Antichrist. We cannot stop it from happening. But then there is the track of how God works in our lives, and that depends on our decisions and what we do and how we behave and how we take things. And I believe, don't try to stop that which cannot be stopped. Change that can be changed, and let's prepare ourselves as a bride preparing itself for the coming of the bridegroom. So I want to encourage you to write me where you're from, and also, if possible, say, as a bride, the Spirit and the bride say, come. Let's ask him corporately to return and to take us. I just shared the message about the rapture, the mystery of the rapture. It's amazing, and I'm going to share with so many other people about that thing, because there's so many people around the world that don't even believe the rapture is a real event. And we need to understand there's so many things that the world cannot understand, so many things that the world cannot grasp. Even the crossing of the Red Sea. Up until today, people doubt if it ever happened, when we have real proofs. We found a land bridge in between Egypt and Saudi Arabia. We found the mountain that is completely burned on the outside, but is not burned on the inside. We found the split rock. We found amazing evidences of the Exodus where the children of Israel walked. How? If God can part the Red Sea, and God could take Enoch and Elijah and Jesus, why are we even doubting that he will have a problem? Or why do we even think that he will have a problem taking us when he promised? He promised, not only that he promised in 1 Thessalonians chapter 15, in 1 Corinthians 15:51, but he promised in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 that he is about to come. And not just to come. The Bible says the Lord himself, Jesus himself, is about to come. So I want to encourage all of you to get ready. We are going into an amazing year. I mean, I want to see smiles on your faces because you're the bride, and you need to be encouraged. The Bible says that we need to encourage one another with these words. We're not to be discouraged, we're to be encouraged. But who are the people that are discouraged? Those that are not ready. So if the bride is not ready, the bride will not call him to come. So we need to be ready. And when we're ready, he will come. And I know that a lot of people are asking me, Amir, what do you think about September 23rd, 2017, the Feast of Trumpets? Let me tell you something. We don't know the day and the hour. And it's for a reason, because we need to be ready at all time. And I'm just sharing that because a lot of people say, well, just as God did or fulfilled all the festivals on the day prior, during the time of Jesus, why shouldn't he do it again at the same time? Well, I will tell you why. Because what we are going to see in the future is a different dimension. For example, many people believe that the second coming of Christ and the millennial kingdom, actually, the millennial kingdom is going to be the fulfillment of the Feast of Tabernacles, when the Lord will tabernacle with his people. Yes, but the Lord will tabernacle with his people for 1,000 years, and the Feast of Tabernacles only 8 days. So we see that with the Lord, 1 day is like 1,000 years like 1 day. And we don't need to take a certain day and make it, this is it. We need to be ready. That's why Paul, when he talked about the rapture, never mentioned a day, never mentioned a time, never mentioned a specific date. We must live as if it's going to happen in our very lifetime. It's extremely important. So I'm encouraged to see that a lot of you signed up for our weekly newsletter. Go to our website and just sign up. Many more people are registered or are subscribed on our YouTube channel. The reason why I'm saying that is I believe that in 2017, part of the enemy's attempt to stop the voice of people from alerting of the end times and calling people to change, the media, the social media is going to really somehow put a cap on the things that we can say on the pretext that it's fake news. You know, I wonder who decides what's fake and what's real, because it's the media that is reporting fake news, not individuals. But I want you to understand that once you are subscribed on our YouTube channel, the Behold Israel channel, and once you get our weekly newsletter, and you can get it whether it's our Facebook page or through our website, you can get information even without having to rely on Facebook. And this is why it's important. I'm calling you, please get our newsletter and get subscribe on our YouTube channel, because everything I say here will eventually go on our YouTube channel, and this will maybe the only way for me to communicate with you in the near future. I'm excited about 2017. I'm invited to, as I said, 14 different countries. People are so ready to hear a message about the end times, not because of anything, but because they understand the times and the seasons in which we live. I believe that Bible prophecy is the greatest gift that God could have given to us today in such times of uncertainty, in such times of instability. We know what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen to the world and what's going to happen to us. And as the Bible said, therefore encourage one another with these words. So we see the preparation for Damascus's fall is already there, Isaiah 17. We see the nations that are coming against Israel in Ezekiel 38, they're already there. We see that the whole point of Jerusalem becoming a cup of poison, Zechariah 12 and Zechariah 14, is already there. We see that the signs of the end times, Matthew 24, Luke 21, about the earthquakes and all the other things, is already there. What else do we need? Everything is falling in place, not falling apart. And we need to take heed of those things. And we need to understand that we have an amazing source of information, and it's called the Bible. And the world wished that they knew in details what we know, and we don't even hide it. We are telling it to people. But let he who has the ears hear, and he who has the eyes see that which the Spirit is trying to show and say. So from the island of Boracay in the Philippines, I want to encourage all of you to stay strong and to lift your eyes up, get ready, and call him. Call him once you're ready. You don't want to call him when you're not ready. You need to get ready, and then you call the bridegroom to come. The Spirit and the bride say, come. Our YouTube channel is Behold Israel. Our website is beholdisrael.org. You can write us to info@beholdisrael.org. We have Instagram, one word, Behold Israel. In fact, if you go on the Instagram, you will see this studio that I'm actually broadcasting from right now. It's a pile of chairs and tables right here on this balcony. This is how I managed to improvise a studio for this Facebook Live. I love you all from the Philippines. Thank you for praying for my family. My son is feeling much better. The family is doing okay back home. I'm so excited about my ministry here in the Philippines. I'm excited also to get back home shortly. We have a very busy year, and we want to be found working in our Father's business when He comes to take us. Thank you. God bless you, and shalom from the Philippines.